Welcome to the Accountability Revolution in Sport Media Conference. My name is Nathaniel Johnson, and me and my team have been working tirelessly over the last month and a half to put this together. Sports is our passion, and sports has the ability to bring people together. However, there are still many steps in sports that need to be taken in order to represent everyone. And that is the whole purpose of this conference. To me, accountability revolution means diversity and inclusion and equity for everyone. And this is a theme that will be discussed throughout the entirety of the conference. This virtual conference is very unique. We know that sitting in front of your computer screen can be exhausting, so the concept behind this on-demand conference is really important to us. You have the ability to access any part of the conference throughout the day during the time that you have. We don't want to constrict you, so you can join whatever part whenever you have the time. With that being said, I hope you enjoy, and I will introduce you to my prof, Laurel Walzak.
Thank you, Nathaniel. I'm Laurel Walzak. I'm a professor at RTA School of Media at Ryerson University in the Faculty of Communication and Design. I'm so excited to be working together with Nathaniel in the GXSLab Accountability Revolution in Sport Media Conference. This is an important day for all of us to be able to have conversations with our sport industry and community to talk about diversity, to talk about equity, real issues that are surrounding inclusion. And we have a number of speakers that you're going to hear from today that do just that, have conversations. Nathaniel, can you tell us a bit about the speakers?
Yeah, so it's actually been amazing. Over the course of a month, my team has been able to collect insight from over 40 speakers about said issues. And this speaker group is very diverse. Speakers from that are athletes, former athletes and current athletes, speakers in sport media, and speakers in sport business. So we really have a diverse perspective on some of these issues facing the sports industry right now, pertaining to diversity, inclusion, and equity.
So let's talk about this from a standpoint of representation matters. One thing that we have and that you will hear today at this conference from many of our speakers is representation. Nathaniel, why is it so important in our industry that we have representation from all communities?
Yeah, so representation was a major theme throughout the whole entire conference. And the reason why it's so important is because in the sport industry, if you want to hire the best and that's your goal, you can't do so unless you're looking at all people from all different perspectives. That means women, minority groups, LGBTQ plus. All these people have different perspectives. And if these people aren't represented in the boardrooms, on the field, in sport media, then you can't really begin to invoke change in kind of change things and bring about diversity. And that's why this is representation is really important.
So we also have let's talk about accountability revolution. And Dr. Kathleen Peary Adams is going to come on later today to talk about the accountability revolution concept. So last year we saw social justice movement in sport come out loud and clear. And it's so amazing to see many athletes, organizations, and key stakeholders in the sport community, students in RTA sport media, come forward and talk about the social justice and why this is so important, and using platforms to use their voice and have these conversations and dialogue. This is critical. So the revolution is about moving from a social justice movement to being held accountable. So off the heels of the NCAA, March Madness, the inequities that we saw as one example and one example only in the weight room, we need to make sure that off the heels of this, that we say, who is accountable? Who is accountable, and break it down for not having the weights for the women's weight room in the NCAA? Who is accountable? Is it the NCAA? Is it leadership? What can other stakeholders do? What can ESPN do? What can TSN do? What about the sponsors? We see and saw in the NFL with NFL Washington team that sponsors came forward and said, we're not going to be funding this team. We're not going to be giving you the dollars, the revenue, the economics, if you don't change the name. So we saw issues there, and people come to the table and demonstrate their influence and their power. So let's have the conversations and talk about accountability. I think it's also important to understand something. I was told many years ago when I wanted to do a research on the gender equity in social media and in our media broadcasts in Canada and the US, not to shame any of our partners. I was of the mindset that we're not shaming partners, we're bringing conversations and discussion to the table. In the case of the NCAA, I would argue they're shaming themselves. So, how do we have these conversations to be able to have actionable items to make change? I think that you would agree with me, Nathaniel, that some change has happened, and we've heard from some of our speakers that small changes have occurred. We've definitely seen it in the WNBA, and we've seen it, let's say, in sports like tennis, golf. Serena Williams has really driven that space. Billie Jean King has driven that space. We've seen women coaches in the NFL. One of our partners and our instructors at the RTA School of Media, Dr. Den Welter, we've seen those changes, and we should celebrate those changes. But would you agree that a lot of our speakers have said the change is actually still happening, and it's very slowly?
Yes, most definitely. Like there's definitely been steps to change, but at the end of the day, there's a difference between there's so much more left to go. And what you said really resonated with me because how do you expect to change if people and organizations aren't held accountable? Organizations can say they're doing something, but unless that is actually reflecting and showing, then they do need to be held accountable. And by being held accountable, then we can move forward and really start to invoke that actual and physical change that's meaningful.
So can you maybe give some examples from our speakers when we ask them, what is one word that you think from an accountability revolution standpoint that we need to move change forward? Can you think of some of those words that we heard from our speakers?
Yeah, there were plenty, but one that really kind of was highlighted for me was representation. Also, another one was education, meaning kind of educating people on proper terminology, racial stereotypes that need to be fixed. All this stuff, representation, education, diversity. These are all major themes that were brought up by our guests today, and that really, by them talking about it, hit home through their particular perspectives.
So we have an amazing group of speakers. I feel so grateful and so lucky for all of our students that worked on this team to bring the students together and work with our speakers to record their various videos. These speakers, can you tell us where they are from? We've got some, as you said, some people from the WNBA.
Yeah,
From
we have like I said, we have people from all aspects of sport. We have people from the WNBA, Canada basketball, the Olympics, people from the UK, people from the States, Indianapolis Colts, New York Mets, all different types of people from all different aspects of sports. And this is why this I believe this conference is so special. Just the diversity of perspectives and them all being put together really helps this point of change hit home.
So Nathaniel, I am so grateful that you have been leading this project for the GXSLab. You came on and had tremendous interest in this project, and you have been an incredible leader to all of our group. We cannot go on to this conference today without thanking all of those people. I believe there's about 14 students, if I'm not mistaken, 13, 14. And in fact, actually, let's get that correct. There are 14 students that have helped out with us. And can you talk about those students and some of the roles that they have put into this to really bringing this type of important and relevant conference to life?
Yeah, so Laurel, I just really want to stress this conference wouldn't be happening without the hard work of these incredibly talented students. These students have really been optimistic and worked entirely and really, really hard in order to collect guests, um, kind of cultivate questions for these guests, execute interviews, edit these interviews, graphics, social media, you name it. These students are unbelievably talented, and this conference wouldn't be happening without them. So for that, I'm extremely grateful. I know you're extremely grateful, and we are really, really proud of the work that they put in and the product that's being put out, because it's an unbelievably important conference, and they really show this by the work they put in.
So Nathaniel, why don't you open up the conference, give some closing words today, and also don't forget, we have some live portions of today. So we're going to go start at 10 o'clock and finish right through with our closing remarks with a closing remarks speaker. Could you tell us about that, the 4 live events?
Yeah, so we have plenty of live events today as well that you can join. One, the accountability clinic run by Laurel herself, where they're diving into deep, deep conversation about issues within the sports industry, especially highlighting some of the issues that happened recently with the NCAA mishap with the women. Unacceptable, but they will be diving deeper into that. We have the Out on Air panel, um, moderated by Laurel and hosted by Joe Recupero. And they're talking about LGBTQ issues in sports. So very, very interesting topics, and diving deeper into those issues as well. Um, we have an unbelievable closing speaker, Dr. Ivan Joseph, who's going to kind of conclude the conference and touch upon some of the main themes throughout the conference. And something I'm very, very excited for is the speed networking event that we have going on, through Run the World. And this gives the opportunity for students to speak with some of the industry members and kind of elaborate on what's been talked upon throughout the day, and just connect with them and hear their perspectives on a personal level.
So Nathaniel, please join me in welcoming all of the participants that have signed up today to enjoy, listen, learn, get the education that our speakers are talking about, reflect on how you can be accountable. Please make sure you take to social media. You can use the hashtag #RUAccountable, and you can also use @GXSLab. So we definitely encourage you to take to social media throughout the day and comment, provide your perspective, listening from the speakers. Enjoy your day, and thank you, Nathaniel, for leading us through this. That's about it. That's a wrap. Enjoy the conference.
Thank you, Laurel. Enjoy.